Hey everyone, it's JC with Magic Finders, and today we're in Guavate, Puerto Rico, about to experience La Ruta del Lechon, a.k.a. Pork Highway. So this is basically a highway along Route 184 that's lined with lechoneras along the route. And you can go up and down the highway to kind of experience all the lechoneras that this road has to offer. And we're going to be today going lechonera hopping, I guess, along the route, and we're gonna bring you along with us. So come with us and let's find some magic. All right, guys, so before we start, let's go on over some brief definitions. So first off, lechon. Lechon is slow roasted pork that's cooked on a spit, and it's basically cooked over hot coals for several hours. And lechoneras, they're basically the restaurants that go through this process and bring that lechon right to you. So traditionally around Christmas time, you're gonna see a lot of lechon on Puerto Rican tables, and they're usually going to be accompanied by traditional dishes like arroz con gandules, which is rice with pigeon peas, and also morcilla, which is blood sausage. And today, when we go through this video, you're probably going to see those dishes typically consumed by us as we kind of do this experiment. So all in the name of science. All right, everyone, so this is our first stop, and this is Lechonera Los Amigos. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna compare and contrast kind of all the options of lechon that you have along the route. So we wanna see who has the better lechon. And that's very subjective, but we have some criteria that we're gonna be judging on. So first off, it's gonna be the crunch. So with that pig skin, you want a crunchy pig skin with some firmness. It's got to be somewhat hard, but not soft, and it's not going to be chewy. Also, you don't want burnt skin because the flavor it's going to be a little bit off. Next up, we're going to be thinking about the pork meat. So the pork meat has to be tender. It's got to be juicy. It's also got to hold up pretty well. It's not going to be like pulled pork where it just falls apart. It's got to have some firmness to it as well. You definitely don't want it to be dry. And then lastly, we're going to look at flavor. So we want flavor to be salty. So salt is pretty common in Puerto Rican cuisine, but we don't want it to be overly salty. Mostly, we just want it to have flavor. So let's try Lechonera Los Amigos out and dig in. So here we got lechon with a side of morcilla or blood sausage and arroz con gandules or rice with pigeon peas. And we got kind of lucky because we've got in the rice a piece of longaniza, and we'll go through that a little bit later. So we're gonna taste this one out and see how it is. All right, guys. So first we're gonna go dig into the skin, and we want the crunch. We want to make sure it's not chewy or soft. So this one has sort of a crunch, but I'd say it's overly cooked, and it's tough. It's tough to bite in. That's definitely not exactly what you want in pig skin when you're trying to out lechon. But we'll try the other components and kind of figure out how we're going to navigate through this. Okay. So the pork meat is actually good. It's tasty. It's got flavor. It's juicy, and I think it holds up pretty well as well. It's soft enough to fall apart, but it's not pulling apart, right? So I'd say it's actually pretty good for pork meat. Not a big fan of the pig skin. So all in all, I'd give it probably around a 6 out of 10. Alright guys, so we're actually back at El Mojito. We made a little blooper. We left a credit card out and the information was out there, so we had to recreate this video. I'm going to give you an honest opinion of today, but last week I could say it was excellent, but no worries, we're going to give you an honest review. So let's dig in. First off, let's start off with the skin. So the skin is crunchy. I'd say that the skin is a little bit overly crunchy. I think it's a little bit overly done. Last week, it was actually perfect. But it's not bad. We'll try a little bit of the pork meat now. So yeah, the pork meat looks good. You can see. Yeah, so it's got plenty of flavor. It's juicy. The meat's more like pulled pork, and this is consistent with what we saw last week. So although we look for a little bit more firmness when we're looking for lechon, this one's actually really good. I guess this basically what it means is that it's been slow cooked, probably a little bit longer. But yeah, I think it's excellent. So probably today I'd give it an 8.5 or an 8 out of 10. Last week it was actually a 9 out of 10. So we'll dig into the rice. The rice last week was really good. And it's excellent. I love the rice. We'll get a piece of la morcilla. It's really good morcilla. Got a little bit of spice. And then we actually got an additional side of potato salad. So I'm not a huge fan of the potato salad. But all in all, everything else is excellent. I'm a big fan. You'll see by the end of this video, because it'll be the same result we had last week. It was excellent. This week it's excellent. I'd say the pork is a little bit more cooked than it was last week. Last week it was actually phenomenal. But yeah, all in all, good work. Okay, so on first sight, it looks relatively dry, but we're gonna keep a level head and try to be as objective as possible regardless. Let's start off with the skin. It's crunchy skin, it's just way too hard. We'll try the meat now. So this one is firmer, but again, it looks dry. It is dry. And also I'll say, needs a little bit of salt. So the thing about Dr. Lechon, I think it's more of a smoky flavor in the lechon. So it's different. I'm not sure if that means it's good, right? Because the smokiness is that they're gonna continue cooking it, and I think that's what's gonna keep drying it out throughout the day. Also, caveat, we came here early. So we started our tour at 9:30 a.m. It's 10:30 a.m. or so right now. And the reason is to kind of give all the lechoneras a fair shake when we're testing it. And also, anytime before noon, you want to beat the crowds, right? Because around noon, the crowds on a weekend can get these places really packed. So we wanted to be here early to beat the crowds and also to get the freshest lechon. So I'm going to say this one is probably a 3 out of 10. And my reason for it is the skin is hard. It is crunchy, but this crunchy isn't necessarily a good crunch. Usually you want it crunchy, but not too hard where it's overly cooked. So I think all in all, Dr. Lechon is a 3 out of 10. And I would say you probably could skip this one if you're going along the lechon route and doing lechonera hopping. So in this stop, we weren't able to get arroz con gandules or morcilla. It's not that they don't usually have it, it's that they didn't have any prepared today. So we got sweet plantains to accompany it instead. You can't typically go wrong with sweet plantains. It's usually a pretty good side to go with. It's a good alternative if you don't have arroz con gandules. All right, guys, so now we are at El Nuevo Rancho, and I think this is a spin on the original Lechonera on Port Highway, which we'll see in a few stops, which is actually El Rancho Original. This here is El Nuevo Rancho, or the new ranch. So we're pretty excited to dig in. As you can see, it actually looks pretty tasty. Right, so this pig skin actually looks pretty good. It's also lined with a pretty good mass of fat in there. So let's try it. Yeah, so that's good pork skin. It's got a good crunch. It's got good fat. Let's go to the meat. And I think the meat's gonna be good. It seems like it's actually the perfect consistency. It's tender, it's soft, it's also very juicy. Let's see the flavor. So that's good in texture. I'd say it's lacking a little bit of flavor, maybe a little bit of salt. But all in all, I think it's pretty good. I would actually probably give it between a 7 or an 8 out of 10. It's just needs a little bit more flavor, and it would be actually a really, really good lechon. All right, so let's try the rice. So I'm not a huge fan of the rice. I think I definitely prefer the rice at El Mojito or Lechonera Los Amigos, but the lechon was actually really good. So since we're judging off of lechon, this might be a must stop at. We'll dig into the morcilla to see how this is. Yeah, not a huge fan of la morcilla either. It's got a hint of spice, but again, I feel like it feels a little bit looser, like the rice. Not entirely sure what it is. But yeah, all in all, lechon good. The compliments the sides that we chose, not great. All right, guys, so we're at our next to last stop, and we're at Lechonera Los Pinos. This is amongst the most well-established lechoneras here along Port Highway. So we're excited to try, again, lechon. So I'll try the skin first, how we've been doing it all along this route. This skin actually looks pretty good. Let's see. So this one's crunchy. Remember when I said the criteria for the lechon? So it's got a good crunch, but I also mentioned that if it's burnt, and this one's a little bit burnt, it'll throw off the taste of the skin, and that's exactly what happened here. And I was looking at the lechon up front. There are portions that look less burnt than this one. I guess we got the short end of the stick, and we got a little bit more of the burnt portion. But let's try the pork meat, which actually looks really good, and it feels really good. It feels firm, which I also mentioned that it should be firm. It should also be tender and juicy, and this one is, as you can see. So that's good regarding the texture. Again, I think it's lacking a little bit of flavor, but all in all, I'd say it's pretty good. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. And we'll dig into the rest of the components to kind of figure this out. So we'll go into the arroz con gandules. And that is a quality arroz con gandules. Very traditional. A very Christmassy feel to it. So it brings back a little bit of nostalgia. I like it. We'll try the morcilla finally to see. And that's a good morcilla. It doesn't have spice, which I mentioned in Los Mojitos that I like a little bit of spice with my morcilla. But all in all, the flavor of it is pretty good. I'd say it's actually a pretty good morcilla. If you're looking for a morcilla that doesn't have spice, Los Pinos is probably the way to go. All right, so ratings readjustment alert. So we're kind of comparing this one to the previous stop, which is the Rancho Original. And I think this one is a little bit better. It's basically, I guess, on the same tier of quality of lechon. I think they're both pretty good. So I'd say El Nuevo Rancho is probably more of a 7. I think I said it was between a 7 and an 8. And I think this one is between a 7 and an 8. I'd probably give it a 7.5. I think the only complaint here is that it lacks a little bit of salt. I think El Nuevo Rancho lacked a little bit more of salt. And the other complaint here is the skin. We got a little bit burnt, but I think that's just a matter of luck. I think we probably could have gotten a better portion of skin because judging from how it looked up front, it looked pretty good. So I'm not complaining significantly on the skin. I think it's probably a 7.5. All right, guys, so we are at our last stop, and this is the OG. We saved the best for last. I'm not sure if it's the best, but we actually saved a really good one for last. This is probably the most, it actually is the most well-established. It's the first lechonera along the Port Highway. So I'm pretty excited to try the lechon. We've tried the lechon previously here in multiple occasions, but when we're comparing, we're gonna give it an objective an objective review, and we're going to make sure to give you the proper information. So let's start off with the skin. As you can see, this one is just a piece of skin. There isn't like any fat with it. It's just purely skin. So we're judging on skin and skin alone. And that is a good piece of skin. It's crunchy, not too hard. It's definitely not soft at all. A little bit more burnt, so that burnt flavor is in there. I'm not minding it too much. So the skin's good. Let's try a piece of the actual pork meat. Yep, and that's actually the consistency or texture that you do want. It's firm, but still really soft. It's juicy, as you can see. It's very juicy. You can kind of see it all over my fingers there. And I'll try it to see how the flavor is. So that's a good flavor. Again, I think it's lacking a little bit of salt. It might have been the piece I got, so I'm gonna go in for a second piece to make sure. So I think it is lacking just a little bit of salt. I'd probably give this one an 8 out of 10. I think we'll actually do a recap after we're done here to see the order that we established based off the rankings we did. But all in all, really good piece of lechon. Okay, so we're trying the rice now. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the best rice I've tried along the whole route. And we'll try the morcilla, which actually looks really good. Let's see if the taste is up to par with how it looks. That one's good. So it's a good piece of morcilla. I think it's lacking a little bit of spice than what I prefer. But again, if you don't like spicy morcilla, either here or Los Pinos is a pretty good choice to make regarding morcilla. All in all, I'm pretty satisfied with El Rancho Original. You can't go wrong with El Rancho Original. It is the OG. It is the most well-established lechonera along this route. So come and try it. All right, guys. So all in all, we're going to do a quick recap of all the lechoneras we visited today. So I think number 1 was El Mojito. Number 2 is El Rancho Original, which is where we're currently at. Number 3, Los Pinos. Number 4, El Nuevo Rancho. Number 5 is Lechonera Los Amigos, which was our first stop. And then last place, number 6, was Dr. Lechon. It was really dry. So I'm not sure if it was that we gave them that we came on a bad day, but give it a shot. I'd recommend to go along the route, do some lechonera hopping. Here we call it chinchorreando. So enjoy yourself, have a beer, have some lechon, have a good time. This is a great time to experience the traditional Puerto Rican meal and enjoy your time along the route while you're at it. Alright guys, so that concludes our adventure here at Pork Highway or La Ruta del Lechon. It was a great time we had at Guavate. I hope you enjoyed your time as well. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel and comment below. Let us know what you think about Pork Highway. Let us know if you came here before and what you enjoyed most about La Ruta del Lechon. And until next time, bye!